gonna teach you how to dance? Who's gonna show you how to fly? Who's gonna call you on the lame dope smoking slacking little sucker you are?
Some things seem to me to be very easy to understand, and it can be quite frustrating when people don't seem to understand them or want to understand them. There's a lot of arguments which a lot of people think of as being settled, but they're not settled. No argument is ever truly settled. No dragon is ever truly slain. Bad ideas linger. Bad ideas turn up again. Bad ideas breed in the shadows, and while we defeat them with knowledge and understanding and rhetoric, you can never rest on your laurels. You can never just sit back and say, well, that's settled and that's all there is to it. Because, nuh-uh, shut up, isn't an argument. So if you stop trying to defend advances or ideas that you have, if you stop trying to debunk ideas that bad actors, dishonest actors have, if you stop fighting them with facts, with evidence, with rational, logical argument, the things that won the argument in the first place, then people are no longer exposed to those arguments, but they are exposed to the arguments of the headbangers, the holocaust denial, or the anti-vax rhetoric, or the flat earth, or whatever it might be. Some are more serious than others. The appeal of fascism and nationalism, you know, the last of the generation that fought off fascism is dying, and perhaps it's no coincidence that far-right ideas and nationalism have popped up again, perhaps in part because of that, because that direct experience is fading into history, and we've stopped making and having the arguments that these things are bad. We just tell people, nuh-uh, shut up, which isn't an argument. It's never over. You can never sit on your laurels. You can ridicule and all the rest of it, but you have to keep making the arguments, and it's disappointing in the extreme to see people who in the past have been so strongly free speech, have believed in the same things, have believed in breaking the rules and making the arguments, seeking to hoist the ladder up behind them. And while very few people would object if we take away the speech of actual fascists, Holocaust deniers and so on, it never stops there. The adult verification system here in the UK is coming in through an unholy alliance of both conservative and radical sex-negative feminists coming together. Who's it putting out of work? Who's it risking? A lot of female producers, a lot of female stars. That's who's under threat from it. And so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes. For asserting the reality of biological sex without ever even really touching on the arguments around gender expression, you can find yourself pilloried and censored and cancelled by our unofficial social credit system. It never stops, and sooner or later the bell tolls for thee. These problems come for you. What you do, what you enjoy, what you like, ideas that you want to express, they end up being suppressed because they're impolitic one way or another. And this idea that we must continue to have the argument, that we must continue to have the debate, that it's counterproductive to remove rights even from horrible people, for some reason this is a radical idea, but it isn't. It's necessary. If you just suppress people, if you don't counter-argue, their ideas can take on a kind of glamour to them. If they're conspiracy theorists, then if you suppress them, then they gain credibility, they don't lose it. If you suppress fascistic ideas, if you suppress anti-immigrant sentiment and don't argue back against it, if you just hurl accusations of racism or whatever else it might be, you're not making the positive arguments in favour of immigration, in favour of treating people fairly. And so because you're not making the arguments, but your enemies are, they persuade people, even if it's a small number, and then another small number, and then another small number, while you're not even making the effort. The fight's never over, the argument's never won, the dragon is never slain. You have to keep having the arguments, tedious as it might be. You have to keep debunking the idea that there was no Holocaust. You have to keep explaining the efficacy and value of vaccination. You have to keep arguing against nationalism, jingoism, fascism. You have to keep arguing positively for the things that you believe to be good. There is no such thing as a settled argument, and censorship is worse than doing nothing.